I honestly think one of the saddest things that happens to people is how slowly they stop believing in the life they once imagined for themselves. And I don't think it happens all at once either. That's kind of what makes it scary. Nobody wakes up one day and suddenly decides, I'm giving up on my dreams now. I think life slowly starts to convince people to abandon those dreams. Because when you're younger, you don't really think that much about what's realistic. You just kind of become obsessed with things. You imagine huge futures for yourself without constantly questioning whether you're allowed to. Kids will spend hours, drawing something, building something, creating something, and talking about becoming something without caring if it sounds realistic or not. And honestly, I think there's something really pure about that mindset. I think people naturally want lives that feel meaningful and exciting and personal to them. But eventually, reality starts to push back because people start hearing things like, be realistic, you need stability, that's probably not going to work. Make sure you have a backup plan. And again, none of those things are necessarily bad advice. That's why this is so complicated because obviously people need money, people need security, people need stability. But I also think there comes a point where practicality starts to replace your personality and people stop building lives that actually feel like them. I think a lot of people eventually reach this point where they're no longer asking themselves what they genuinely want from life. They're just trying to build the safest version of it possible. And honestly, I completely understand why. The world feels expensive and it feels uncertain. It feels competitive, and people are scared of failing, scared of embarrassing themselves, and scared of wasting their time. So eventually, chasing stability starts feeling smarter and more like the right move rather than chasing something meaningful. And I think modern life makes this happen even faster because everything feels optimized now. Careers, schedules, productivity, resumes, and networking. People are constantly thinking about how to become more efficient versions of themselves, how to optimize themselves, be more productive, and be more disciplined, be more marketable. And honestly, sometimes it feels like we're all kind of slowly turning into robots a little bit. People are becoming really good at functioning, but not necessarily good at feeling alive. Everything starts to become about output and turn into thinking about output, efficiency, schedules, performance. And I honestly think some people become so focused on functioning well inside the system that they slowly lose connection to the parts of themselves that once actually made them feel alive. And I think fear has a huge role in this too, especially now, because people are terrified of looking delusional or looking cringe or unrealistic, especially online where it feels like everyone is constantly watching each other. So a lot of people slowly stop trying before they even really began, not because they stopped caring, but because disappointment starts feeling unavoidable. And honestly, I think one of the weirdest parts of getting older is realizing how many adults are carrying around these abandoned versions of themselves. They carry around these old passions and old creative interests, dreams that they used to talk about constantly, versions of themselves that slowly disappeared underneath routine and responsibility. And I don't even think most people notice it while it's happening because settling usually doesn't feel dramatic. It happens slowly. You compromise a little, then a little more, then a little more. You become more realistic, more careful, more practical. And one day you realize you haven't thought about the things that once excited you in years. And I'm not saying everyone should quit their job and blindly chase impossible fantasies and dreams. That's not realistic either. But I do think there's something sad about completely disconnecting from the things that once made you feel genuinely alive, just because the world convinced you they weren't practical enough. Because honestly, I think a lot of people are surviving, but not fully being connected to themselves anymore. And maybe Maybe that's part of why so many people feel lost now. Not because they failed, but because somewhere along the way, they slowly stopped building a life that actually felt like their own. And I think one of the most important things people can do is resist becoming a version of themselves that they know deep down they never wanted to become. Not the perfect version, not some unrealistic fantasy, but the version that slowly loses curiosity and the version that stops caring. The version that becomes completely numb and disconnected from who they used to be. Because I honestly think there has to be some balance. Yes, be realistic, take care of yourself, and build stability and be responsible, but don't let practicality completely destroy ambition. Don't let survival completely replace individuality and uniqueness. Because if you completely sacrifice the parts of yourself that once made you feel alive, what are you even protecting anymore? Don't become a robot. Don't give in to the system that wants you to be like everyone else. Because once that happens, you're not you anymore. You're a version of you who is stripped of all the great things that actually made you special and unique. Don't fall into the trap. Don't allow yourself to give in and become a shell of what you could have been, the version of you you actually wanted to be.